Welcome to What's the Deal with Sam? Starring Sam Lilly. Join Sam as he discusses a wide variety of topics.
Bad
Now
Thank
let's
you.
start the show.
Thank you.
What's the deal with Nintendo shutting down Yuzu? It's like me not standing in front of the curtain for this one with the ground. I didn't even think of a thing beforehand, but yeah, a topic so serious I had to not even stand in front of the curtain and instead just have this quick shot here. But I put on the shirt so it still counts as an episode. Basically, to bring you up to speed, the general gist of this is that the story is that Nintendo filed a lawsuit against Tropic Haze, the people behind the open source Nintendo Switch emulator called Yuzu, and they ended up settling out of court for like 2.4 million or something like that, $2.4 million, along with them shutting down their emulator. And also they were working on they had a 3DS emulator called Citra. They shut that down too because those are the same people. And this has definitely sparked a lot of conversation. I guess I just want to throw in this since it's relevant right now. I mean, I'm recording this in like early March of 2024, just so it probably will be a bit dated. There's probably been things before this and since this, if you're watching this in the future. But basically, what I wanted to really hit home here is that the main thing on my 2 cents on this are that I will say that while I understand a lot of the outrage and concern on this, I would say I do agree with Nintendo in the particulars here. So that definitely got me a lot of flack online already, posting about this on like threads and stuff like that. But basically, I do think that Nintendo has a point here where this emulator was used to make Tropic Haze a lot of money. And through like, they have this Patreon to get extra patches and things. I've heard that there's potentially them even distributing ROMs and things, which that's also, you can't do that. Even if it's free, you can't distribute ROMs like that, so that's already out the window as well. So using these things to make money and to distribute ROMs, obviously that's something you can't do that. That's bad. Don't do that. I think that Nintendo's got every right to go after this, especially when they bring up the idea of, because of the way that the Yuzu emulator circumvents all of the security things that Nintendo has. Basically, people were able to go in and they were able to pirate copies of Tears of the Kingdom before it was even out. Now, they're not saying that they necessarily got those copies from the people at Tropic Haze or anything like that. It didn't say they got it from them, but like they said, about 20% of the 1 million copies, over a million copies that were pirated that way, were like 20% of them linked back to Yuzu. So, that's probably bad also. And I think that they probably have a right to take this down. If it's going to be a risk that people can easily pirate things by doing this, I think that, yes, that it makes sense. And they're making money, and if they were distributing ROMs or not, I guess they have legitimate reasons to take them down over that. And that's kind of where people got really mad at me. And I understand why some people are upset. The big thing I think that I could definitely agree with here is the idea of, if Nintendo were to use this on other people who weren't offending this, but had emulators out, like an emulator out that was not making money, and people could just get that. They weren't distributing ROMs anywhere. It was just out for people to use. I think Nintendo going after that would be a problem, because I don't think that we should be just taking out every emulator that exists out there. People should be able to make those. And I think that if this were to set a precedent to take down other emulators that aren't offending in this way, I think that would be bad. So I still think that. And I would understand I would be upset about that as well. And another thing that gets brought up a lot here, there's the idea of game preservation. And some people are saying that, oh, well, you should be able to have this emulator because, even for like current games, that because things could go offline at the drop of a hat. Things are constantly changing for all these different versions. So being able to preserve different versions of games and preserve games before they're taken down. I mean, it's very unlikely that something's going to be taken down immediately with no warning, especially if it's a big important game. But as far as the game preservation argument, I have to be a little bit, to be fair on that. I think that for game preservation, I think it's totally fine to be making these emulators. I think it's fine to be preserving these ROMs of all the different versions of games and things before they go offline, because they could disappear out of nowhere. It could happen. But there's no need to have that be a project that anybody can just go out and download and do things with. If it's just about preservation, it can be a behind closed doors private project thing. And also, you shouldn't be putting that out until after the system is totally done with its life cycle, so it can't possibly be making money or anything off of that, right? You can't use it to pirate games. I think that's probably fair, but then we can still preserve the games. We still have a win for the game preservation front. And then the game companies don't have to worry about piracy and can't sue and get these things taken down for something like that. They don't have any ground to stand on. And again, they should probably only do that for ROMs. I still am a stickler for the piracy thing as well, because I think that the thing we still disagree with is that getting your ROMs, people think, oh, well, I bought the game, so I should be able to have a backup of it, which is fine. But the backup you get is supposed to be like you ripping the ROM off of your game. Nobody does that. They get it off of sites that distribute it. You're not supposed to distribute ROMs. There's no way to legally do that. So you can't do that, but that's what everybody does. And then they just hide behind the, well, that's the person distributing it. That's their problem. It's not mine. It's like, okay, but you're still part of the problem. I don't think that makes it cool for you to do that. So that still kind of bothers me. I realize it's probably not easy to just rip your own ROM off of stuff. I get it. But, you could put guides out there to do that as well to get it so you don't have to go through, this means that it's going to get somebody in trouble for doing something you're not supposed to do. I don't know. That's weird. So I'll still be a stickler on that, and people will disagree with me on that, and that's fine, because they're like, whatever, it's the same thing. It's like, I guess, but I feel like it's still the way you get it is probably a problem, so I'm going to stay there on that. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not going to come after you real hard on that. That's my stance, and that's how I would look at it, and that's how I would view it. I don't know how it would get viewed legally for that aspect of you having it, but that's whatever. No one's going to probably go after you personally for downloading some ROMs online. That's just where I stand. And then, so I've had some people get really up in arms about this to the point where they're trying to be like, well, actually, this would be really good for Nintendo to actually let this happen, because studies have shown that, people getting, doing these games that are getting the downloads of this, these are people who are big fans who are getting stuff a leak that was got so they could get it early and check it out and then bought the game when it came out. There's a lot of people who already bought the game and then just using the emulator to play it on a PC or something else or put it on another platform, because Nintendo won't do it, other people won't do it, so it's a way for them to do that. And also the idea of there's also a lot of people who just don't have the money or didn't have the intent to buy anyways, pirating it on a sale that's lost, because they weren't going to buy it anyway. And by having more people have it and talk about it, it's free advertising, so people can talk about it and spread all that stuff out here. There's a lot of things around that idea that's no, actually, this is good for Nintendo too. I just don't think that's true. I think that even if it would bore out in the data that it's actually, statistically, it's actually better if you are driving without a seatbelt and you get in an accident. It's okay, but in theory, that's more dangerous, so we don't do that. It's kind of like this. In theory, it's too risky to do, so we should just allow our games to be able to be easily pirated so that they can be preserved and so that people can play them. That maybe more people will buy them. Maybe less people, and maybe only the people stealing them will steal them for the fact that they wouldn't pay for them anyway, so it won't hurt us. So we should just let them steal it, I guess. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to do. Especially in terms of protecting your IP and your profits, and trying to be protective of that. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, Nintendo made these things. This is still like stuff that they made, and like if it was like art, I think people would treat this a little differently. If you're like, you know what, like I can steal somebody's art because like I was never going to pay for it anyways, you wouldn't be like, well, that's fine because more people will see the art now because I'm talking about this thing that I stole, right? Or like, well, if it's like an OnlyFans, and I was like, you know what, like there are a lot of people who are never going to pay for your OnlyFans, so if your OnlyFans stuff gets leaked, that's actually just more people that are going to see it and actually maybe want to subscribe to you, right? And want to actually give you money. So it'll actually end up giving you more in the process. You still won't want people to just leak your OnlyFans content because there's also that risk of the risk of people just not paying for it and just taking it for free. You can't really guarantee anything like that, and that's the problem. Is people also, again, with piracy, you can't guarantee that people aren't just going to pirate it and not buy it if they maybe would have before. You don't know for sure the numbers on that. You can't like predict that, and it's too much of a risk. And also, when it's your own art, when it's your own thing that you're making, if you stole from an artist, right? If this was an artist being like, I don't like when people use my art for like, AI stuff. And it's like, well, you have your art out here, so just put all your art into an AI thing and make their own stuff based on that. And you'd be like, whoa, that's not cool. That's stealing somebody's art. Well, they were never gonna, they were never gonna make that themselves, anyways. They were never gonna they were never gonna commission you to make this piece. So it actually doesn't hurt you. And if anything, if they say that it was, inspired by your art, that's actually an advertisement for you. No, you would be on this artist side and be like, no, fuck this. The AI thing sucks. But people stealing from Nintendo, no, that, and a lot of it just kind of boils down to this whole thing of like, I think the real reason people are upset is they don't like the idea that, a big billion-dollar corporation can defend itself. They don't like that idea. They think that billion-dollar corporations should just constantly be taking the L's on all these things and just deal with it. I agree, Nintendo could do more. They could be part of this emulation scene. They could make it easy. They could just distribute all games on all platforms at all times for free and totally screw themselves over financially forever. They could do that. And if anything, I think that it would be more reasonable for them to at least carry over these old games for virtual consoles and things and allow you to keep old games you've already bought instead of just putting them back out and making you rebuy them and then subscribe to them and all this other stuff. I get that. I believe there are things Nintendo could do that would be within reason that would still be nice. But the thing is, I'm talking about what Nintendo, they're legally allowed to defend themselves. I think it's fine for them to defend themselves and their work, the things that they worked on their own intellectual property that they own, that they're trying to protect. I think it's fine to protect it if they have the means. If an artist was having their art stolen from somebody who was just using AI to generate stuff that was like it, and they were making money off of that, I think that if they had the legal means to go after this person using AI, I think people would champion that. In the same way, to be defending their art. They would be like, yes, of course, you should be able to defend yourself that way, especially if you have a legal venue to do it. There's a way to really do this. You would support that. I assume, I'm pretty sure, judging by how people feel on the internet about that. And that's the thing, is like, I think people just don't like it because Nintendo is a very rich company. They have a bunch of money, and so they don't like the idea that this super rich company can just go in and be like, this little open source project could get squashed for doing a thing that they shouldn't be doing, right? They poked the bear and they got bit, and you're like, yeah, but you should never champion the bear. Even when people harass the bear, it shouldn't be okay for the bear to bite them. It's like, well, what did you think was going to happen? I think this is fine. Again, I don't think that this means that it's free reign to take down every emulator out there, but I do think that it means be careful with this, be reasonable about this, and if we're talking about game preservation, I mean, if we can find a better way where it doesn't include making it very easy for people to pirate shit, then yeah, because for modern consoles, I mean, modern consoles connect to TVs just fine, right? You connect to modern displays, a lot of stuff's out. A lot of these things are even the Switch is region free. There's not a whole lot of reason anymore, or at least right now, to be pirating, being able to why do I need to emulate something that exists currently as a current gen thing? Don't do that. Wait till it's older. Wait till it's not a thing that's making the money anymore. And even for the sense of older games, you're well, they are putting Nintendo Switch Online games, up on there for NES games, Super Nintendo games, that kind of stuff. You're well, what about emulating that stuff? I still think that's fine because, again, those are old systems. The versions that you're getting on there are going to be made for easily on modern displays. They're going to be made to play online through their services. They're going to be offering things that are going to give it value beyond just being able to play the game itself like it was back when it came out. So I think that there's still like room to have these things and have them coexist, and I feel like there is a way to preserve games and have emulation without it being a thing that's like an illegal thing that's like threatening Nintendo's IPs and their bottom line. And I think there's definitely a place of we can find some common ground there. While it'll be nice that Nintendo, could do more things, I don't know that they necessarily have to or should, even if it would be nice. And I think that like it's fine in this instance to say like, yes, I disagree with the implications of something greater. I understand the fears there, but I think Nintendo was right in the particulars. And what do you guys think? Like, leave that in the comments. I'm sure I'm going to get some lively comments about this to tell me how I'm super wrong on a lot of this. That's fine. I've already gone through the ringer a bit on this anyways, but I'd be curious if you can say something more to change my mind. I've already had my opinion more for more as I've went some back and forth with these comments anyways. And so, yes, I'm agreeing with Nintendo on the particulars of this case, not on the broad sense of that means emulators have to go or anything like that, or that game preservation is not a thing. And that basically, I think it's I feel like the stance I have here is very level, and it's very fair. And it might not be ideal, but I think that we're working with what we have, and I think it's a pretty good. I think it's a pretty good take. But what do you guys think? That's it. I still don't have a with the ground thing. I was this much I wanted to say about this, right? That much I wanted to say that I didn't even stand in front of the curtain, but I did wear the shirt. So hopefully it still counts as an episode, and hopefully I get this out in a timely manner, and it's not like in December and you're like, are you still talking about this? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. The Switch 2 is going to come out soon. Who gives a shit? What's the deal with